scratch it up.
Bloke with a beard. Right, yeah, I am Andrew Faraday, as you've just heard. I spend my days building web apps, and when I actually want to get interested and fired up, I make computers make music, and I generally sit down with a blank page like that one and make things work. So this is a bit about an open source, real-time graphic programming language called PureData. Has anyone heard of PureData? There was a handful in the room. Excellent. I'm just going to give you a sort of short introduction to how it works, and I'm going to show you rather than telling you, because it's just a bit boring telling you. It's all based on these objects, which are, you can think of them like function calls if you do any programming. Something goes into the top of them, and something comes out the bottom. You chain one into the next, and that is essentially what you do in PureData when you're not closing a window by mistake. And let's see, these ones are audio objects. They end in a tilde, the squiggly thing towards the end there. And we can have a guess what's going on. Let's see, an oscillator producing a tone. We're going to multiply that by something less than 1. It's going to get quieter. DAC, some of you will probably know, digital analog converter, is your sound card. So you won't be too surprised when I connect this last wire up. You're going to hear that little tone, like, very straightforward. And now you also probably know, I'm in the right kind of place, that 440 hertz is the concert pitch A. It's used to tune orchestras. It's used as a dial tone in some countries to test a lot of audio equipment. And it is also exactly the right pitch to drive you completely and utterly nuts. So I'm going to start by cutting out that last wire and adding another volume control in. Now, what you need to understand with digital audio is it's actually a very high-speed stream of numbers. And so what happens, do you think, when you multiply a number, any number, by 1? Cool, this is like primary school maths. What happens when you multiply a number by 1? Nothing, exactly. What happens when you multiply a number by 0? It goes to 0, exactly. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to use line, which is just a line generator. It will take an instruction that says get to this value in this amount of time, in milliseconds. So when I connect this up, you'll hear it going from 0, where it is now, to 1 in a second. And again, if I take that down, you'll hear it fading out in a second. Now, I don't really want to spend my time changing the contents of that message box. So what I'm going to do is use a substitution. $1 just says the first thing it sees gets replaced where the $1 is. That's going to be a 1/10 of a second and a toggle. Now, toggles, again, if you're in tech, you'll probably know this one. Express binary ideas, true, false, start, stop, good and evil, as 1 and 0. So if I click this, you'll see it'll output a 1, and it'll take a 1/10 of a second to start that tone and a 1/10 of a second to stop it. Now, that's all very well, but my mouse has to be on that box in order to get that sound. So what I'm going to do is take a bit more direct control with an object called mouse state. Now, I might not necessarily know what mouse state does, and there's a very quick and easy way to find this out. If I right-click and select help, it's got a working help patch to show me how anything in PureData works. So just reading that briefly, it looks like I can send it a message poll, and it'll start telling me information about my mouse right now. So I'm going to close that and send my mouse state the message poll, and just get some numbers coming out of it. That first one's going to be a toggle, depending on a mouse button being pressed. The next two are going to be the position of my mouse right now. So when I send that message, you'll start to see the mouse is clicked, that toggle's on, and it's showing me my mouse position. Now, the easiest way to get it from there to there would be just to drag a wire, and that's a little bit too easy for me, so I'm going to use something called a send, which is just a named message. I'm going to call this one BTN, because I don't want to stand around typing the word button all day. And I'm going to receive, just receive shortened to R there, BTN, and whatever goes in there will come out of that one. So when I click my mouse button, you'll hear that tone starting and stopping. And all that's very straightforward. It's technically a very simple musical instrument, because I can make a note, and I can stop it making a note, and that's rubbish. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have another send called X for the X-axis of my mouse's movement. I'm going to copy this line generator just to take some of the rough edges off, and receive X there. And what's going to happen now, I'm going to control my pitch very directly from where my mouse is. And this is actually a very simple musical instrument. I've got pitch control, I've got volume control. I can Okay, I don't have very precise control of that one, but it is essentially, I say, a small musical instrument. And thing is, I normally get that done in about 5 minutes, and you don't want to leave it there, do you? I mean, I don't want to leave it there. It's not finished. If nothing else, you can see I've got a whole axis of motion there that's completely unused. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sort of move that round into the range of numbers I want, because I don't want 0 to 767, it says there. I actually want that to give me 0 to 1. There used to be an object in PureData called range, and you'll notice if I make that, it's still outlined there in red. It's been removed somewhere on the line. I don't know why, but somebody who works with PureData has decided that range should be shortened to maxlib/scale. Now, this takes 4 arguments. The first 2 are going to be the numbers going into it, so 0 to 767, and the second 2 are the numbers going out. And again, if I just add a number there, connect them up, you'll see that happening. And again, at the top of the screen, 0, at the bottom, 1. I'm going to send that with the name Y, so that's a control I can use later. And then I'm going to start building at the bottom of my patch here with a mysterious object called del write, and a name and an amount of time. Strangely enough, del write is a coupled object that works directly with del read. Again, the same name and an amount of time, and then another output to my sound card. And you can probably guess who's ahead of me here. Who thinks they know what's going to happen when I connect this up? Yeah, we'll just get a delay. So whatever I make that sound do, that sound is going to then come back a second later exactly the same. And it's a bit like the kind of classic echo, except for the fact that we all know echoes don't come back at exactly the same volume they started. So I'm going to add a volume control above it, multiply by 0.5. Who knows their multiplication? If you multiply by 0.5, half. I'm the only one who knew that. Right. We have a slightly quieter echo, and the next thing you know about echoes is that they do come back. And this is just your classic echo delay algorithm, so I'm going to do a send, this time with a tilde, say it's an audio send, feed B for short for feedback, and then send that back into the top of my delay line, so receive tilde, feed B. And what you're going to hear now, whatever goes into it, is going to come back a second later and half the volume, carry on doing that until the volume's basically trivial. And what we've got, that's sort of, simple synth, delay line. We're starting to get a bit more atmospheric, so I'm going to take a slight bit more control of this again. Just copy my line generator in, smoothing rough edges, and I'm going to feed that, the send, Y. And what's going to happen now, if I move my mouse to the bottom of the screen, that sound's actually never going to fade out, except when I move my mouse up, we're hearing that going. So we've got something a bit kind of Forbidden Planet about this, and there's no mystery there, basically. When people started messing around with synths and they got these weird sounds no one had heard before, it didn't find its home in music. It found its home where people wanted to hear things they'd never heard before, and basically sci-fi. If you think the BBC Radiophonic, the early Doctor Who music, it's all just from this is the sound you can make with the technology. And it actually takes on different flavors. If I move that down to 200 milliseconds. Anyone heard the clangers lately? So, yeah, that is an actual real musical instrument in 10 minutes. And that is just PureData throwing modules together using a few sort of slight programming concepts in there. And that's what I really want to do with it. It is just, this gets me excited about making music. Because when I start doing this, I don't really know where I'm going to finish. And I'm going to show you one of my sort of major projects now, which looks a little bit like this. I'm sorry, it's a little smaller on screen. But all that's doing is NetReceive takes a TCP port, which is just a network port from, in this case, inside my computer. It expects a message which says letter, num, or punct, and follows it with a number, and that gets sent to other parts of the patch, like this one here. Now, you'll probably recognize some parts of this if you've been looking closely. There's an oscillator there, there's a volume envelope. I'm reducing the volume, sending it out to the sound card. And so all we need now, and there's a MIDI to frequency at the top there, basically converts to frequency values. So all we need now is a source of the numbers that it's using. So this is actually from a Ruby patch which I've written, which has, let's see, scripts, let's do manual input first. After an arbitrary amount of speed, this takes a string of text, and converts it into a string of music. And it's all very simple. It's just each sort of member of the string is taken, and there's a few simple rules. Letters are just a semitone apart. JKL. I think I got one of those out of order. Uppercase letters are 1 octave higher. Numbers are a diminished scale on a different synth. And as you've just heard there, there's a few edge cases for punctuation. And this gets a lot more exciting when it's not just me, because I can go, you know, well, I can hear a rhyme. Which is nice. The word potato is actually surprisingly exciting, because it goes OT upwards and then TO down. And, you know, we could easily kind of get something that reminds us of something else with that. If anyone can tell me what this sounds like, by the way, I'd really like to know it. It reminds me of something. But again, it gets more exciting when it's not just me here feeding it sources. So what I'm going to do is Ruby scripts and an RSS feed. And once this is connected, it's going to start reading the BBC News headlines for me. And I can guarantee whatever is the top BBC headline, it's much cheerier when you're hearing a melody from it instead. I mean, it just works that way around. And this is actually one of the first things I did when I moved from kind of music programming into sort of actual programming. And the reason I did it, I have to be honest, was for this script I'm just about to show you. Ruby scripts Twitter search, and if I give this a search term like Music Tech Fest, now if anyone's nice enough to tweet for me about Music Tech Fest in some way, what we're going to get is a real, literal interpretation of Twitter in real time. And who sent that? So if anybody's got the phone in your pocket, please do start joining in. It's, you know, that's what this is for. Ooh. The first one in had that. Every time I've showed this off, someone's done repeated exclamation marks. And yeah, right out of the gates this time. Actually, when I was sort of asked to do this, the first thing I was told is you've got to show them the Twitter thing. They've got to know the Twitter thing. But I'm actually going to do you one better now, because I've got permission now to try a kind of performance that... I'm trying this out on you guys, you're guinea pigs. And basically a kind of performance I've been thinking of for a while, because you can see that's actually then going into this patch here when somebody makes some things, you'll see that those numbers changing. I'm actually going to do some live modification. So my plan is to hack this. You can see what's happening. You can see if you can work out what's going on. I'm sorry, it is quite small on screen. There's not a great deal I can do about it at this moment in time. So, yeah. Actually, I'm just going to see if I can fix that now. Yes, that looks very bunched up, but no problems there. Right, so please do keep tweeting in with the tag Music Tech Fest, or I will look like a complete and total idiot here doing nothing in particular. I'm going to do a live sort of 5-minute hack for you, and yeah, let's just see what we can do, messing around with this as it works. If you stop completely, I will just choose one of the trends instead. I don't want to do that. Right. Yes, I have no support for Japanese characters. Thank you for pointing that out, whoever's doing it. When it's finished, I'm sure we'll get back to English. Okay, can't actually skip it. Who's done this? Thank you very much. You have exposed the weakness in my code. I thank you very much. I need somebody who knows Japanese characters and Unicode support and PureData to start writing me a Japanese character library. So please do go, you know, you're very welcome to be that person. Okay, I'm actually going to skip that and start again. Keep tweeting Music Tech Fest, please. I just knew that would happen. Is nobody tweeting? Hey, sound. And I'm done. Thank you. Thank you very much for putting up with that for a moment. Have I got time for a question or two? Okay, any questions?
Any questions?
You're all speechless. I'll take that as a compliment.
One here, Andrew, one here. 1 sec.
Oh, over there.
Are any of your patches online so we can download them and try for ourselves?
Not so much to download, but there is, if I take you back to my example, it's probably just a tiny bit too small for you to read. There's andrewfaraday.com, has tutorials for basically the kind of things I'm doing. It does have the tutorial for the 10-minute musical instrument up there. Yeah, also at Marmite Junction, if you want to tweet me, I'm always ready to talk to people who want to talk PureData, because, you know, it's what I do and it's what I love. Right, any more on that one? Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Man in the beard, text, text to music, Andrew Faraday.